Discover the Higher Education Campus at BET UK 2026, a dedicated space where university educators and innovators explore new ideas, share best practice, and harness technology to shape the future of learning. From thought-provoking keynotes to meeting higher education exhibitors with the latest solutions, this is where higher education comes together to move forward. Join Amal Rajan and Vivian Stern in the Higher Education Theatre, where they will be addressing the financial challenges of UK higher education, and there are so many more sessions for you to take part in. Join us at BET UK 2026 at the ExCeL London from the 21st to the 23rd of January. Book your free educator ticket now at betshow.com.
Hello everyone and welcome to Beyond the Technology podcast. My name is Becky Vickerstaff and I'm a higher education senior consultant here at Jisc for the Building Digital Capabilities Service. I'm delighted to be joined today by Professor Jane Rooney from the University of Manchester. We're going to be talking lots about the fantastic work that has been going on with Manchester, and we've been working alongside looking at digital skills and digital capabilities for a few years now. And so today is going to be about listening to the story, what's been going on. And I'd like to, if I can, hand over to Jane could you introduce yourself and give a little bit of a background about what's going on in the University of Manchester with digital skills?
Thanks very much, Becky. And hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be talking with you again. And thanks very much for inviting me to share our digital capability work from the University of Manchester. I'm Jane. I'm Professor of Educational Development and Digital Capability, and I'm based within our Faculty of Biology, Medicine and Health. And from November 2021 to July this year, as part of a university-wide strategic change programme, I had responsibility as an academic lead to implement support for student and staff digital capability to enhance our teaching, learning and student experience. So in overview, since 21, working with colleagues from across the university, the Digital Skills Workstream has introduced self-assessment through the Jisc Discovery tool, which is the focus of our chat today, provided opportunities to enhance and gain recognition for digital development with a pilot of LinkedIn Learning for all and Microsoft certifications for students, and incorporated recognition for colleagues within teaching and scholarship promotion criteria. We've established our commitment as a university to digital equity with a charter that's co-owned with our Students' Union. And with the technology workstream, we implemented the Jisc Digital Experience Insight surveys to standardise evaluation of the student and staff digital experience. So exciting times here. Our new strategy that will take us to 2035 has just launched. And I'm really looking forward to seeing its implementation build on the digital capability foundations that have been established so far.
Thank you, Jane, for that summary. And it's really interesting. I can't wait to hear a little bit more about that in more detail. So to start off with, and just to kind of introduce what's been going on there, how did you raise awareness with your stakeholders about the implementation and the rollout of our Jisc Discovery tool?
So the implementation of the Discovery tool actually preceded my academic lead role. It was something that I had proposed when I was appointed as a fellow of our university's Institute for Teaching and Learning in early 2020. So global events with the pandemic necessarily delayed the plans at that time, but we went on to subsequently launch the tool for students and staff in 2021. I've been really fortunate to have senior buy-in and commitment to the proposals that have gone to our teaching and learning strategic group for approval. And then everything that I and the colleagues who've been supporting the work stream have done has been progressed through cross-institutional working, and that's been absolutely core to delivering the work stream. As we know, digital capability is essential across all areas of the university. So to get the point of being able to launch the tool, I worked with colleagues from IT services to progress the technical side of the implementation and single sign-on, gain information governance approvals. I worked with colleagues based in strategic change, communications, getting the message out there. And the library teams and the staff development teams created student and staff-facing resources to support use and scaffold colleagues and students to get started with it. And our library have a fantastic student team who are part of the reviewing process too. That was the first time I worked with so many colleagues from different areas to launch a platform, and you learn so much, reflecting as you go. So the launch was very much the beginning, I came to realize. And through my subsequent role, and with continuing collaboration with colleagues from across different areas, we've continued raising awareness activities around the tool with different user groups. What it can do for us as individuals in terms of self-assessing, signposting additional resources and support, as well as giving us that organizational view through the anonymized institutional data as well.
And I think you've touched on something there that we see a lot. So obviously in a lot of my conversations with institutions on a daily basis, that senior level, that strategic buy-in across multiple stakeholders is so important to help with that, because of course digital skills is fundamental to every area now in most institutions and colleges that we're seeing across the sector. It sounds like you had a really positive experience with engaging with those different stakeholders. I guess just a tiny follow-up question, if I can, on that one. Um, what sort of, if someone was asking for your advice on, that approach that you've had on those different stakeholders, um, have you got any advice if other institutions were looking to get those kind of types of stakeholders involved, but they met a little bit of resistance? Did you come across any situation where you had to potentially be a little bit more persuasive with those stakeholders, or was there any tips that you can perhaps give some of our other subscribers to the service?
I think knowing your allies is absolutely critical. I think you expect challenge. There will be challenge because there's always other things happening at the same time as well. So we were one work stream among six to start with, and there were other strategic change implementations happening that necessarily had a higher priority. So I think you can have buy-in, and also know that it's going to take longer, or there's going to be a later window um, when things can then move. So I think that first step of helping people understand the value is absolutely critical. And then from there, it's okay, if not now, then when should we look to plan this in? Um, so I think it's a continuing process. So I think know your allies around the senior buy-in, but also know your willing conspirators and collaborators who are there already and willing to try things out and to build the evidence around it. Um, I think also once you've passed go, identifying as many places as possible to embed and keep it part of the conversation. So right from the start of the role, I was thinking about student and staff journeys and thinking through what are the touch points, what are the processes, where's the paperwork where we can include reference and support for digital capability, so like program development forms, student staff inductions, promotion criteria, mapping through the opportunities. Um, and aligning with other initiatives as well. And that's been really important. So, one of the big implementations that's happening at the same time is through the technology work stream, who have just successfully launched our new um, central learning environment. Significant program of work that my colleagues have led there. Um, and within that implementation, they've got standards around pedagogical standards, and we were able to include reference to digital capability within those, and those will be built on year. So, um, sharing information so other people can include it within the strategic change that they're leading, and aligning to different contacts across the university as well. Um, Finding those opportunities and empowering colleagues to promote within their own areas. Um, Case studies when you get there, sharing effective practice events, colleagues from different areas, and the role modeling of leaders using the tool with their teams. I've seen to be a really powerful approach as well. And then I think there's also making the most of available support. There's so much support available Your support's been really helpful, Becky. Didn't know I was going to say that. Not, but throughout our implementation, the sessions you've done with colleagues about how to use the tool, and how it's used within the sector, and sharing that information with my colleagues has been incredibly helpful. The session you did for senior stakeholders on the data that the tool affords, and again, practice from the sector on how other institutions are using that data, incredibly helpful. Different groups of stakeholders, the help desk are phenomenal. But I have to say how helpful they are as well, with such timely support just throughout. And then that wider support as well, that's again facilitated by Jisc, where people are sharing their practice in the communities of practice. So the Building Digital Capability, Digital Experience Insights one, the Student Experts one as well, incredibly supportive over the years. And it's really useful to have that space where you can share where you're up to and learn from each other in a trusted environment. I think a final thing as well is know that it's going to take time. It's going to take time to embed. It's going to take time to establish shared responsibility. And you need that constant continuing raising awareness throughout. But demonstrating the application and the value does get easier over that time.
I mean, there's so many top tips in there that I can absolutely resonate with. So obviously, we spend a lot of time as consultants speaking to other institutions, and absolutely, I think one of those tips that you've given there from your experience is it's embedding digital skills in something. So obviously, if it's staff appraisals, that yearly cycle, if it's staff induction, if it's with students as part of like a module or a program or something that they physically have to do as well. It's wherever you can embed that, so that digital skills kind of becomes ingrained, I think, isn't it, in everything that um, an individual, but also the institution as a whole does. So, um, and again, that best practice as well, I think, is one of the strengths within that we see with the service. It's that community, it's that sharing of practice, and I think that naturally then falls into when colleagues are sharing their digital skills. I mean, we see it in the data, as you've mentioned, from the digital experience insights. A lot of peers will learn digital skills from each other, don't they? So there's lots and lots of top tips in there that I'm sure lots of people will pull up on. One of the things you mentioned in there was the data. So I wondered if we could move on and just talk a little bit more about the data that, of course, you get from the analytics from the Discovery tool, which, of course, are anonymized and aggregated. So, it's very confidential to the individual user. But as an institution, of course, then you get that kind of detailed feedback to really help. So I wondered, in terms of the data, from your experience, and I know we touched on that a little bit when we had that session with your stakeholders, has the tool at all, the data from the tool, been used at all in terms of to inform curriculum design or teaching practices at the University of Manchester at all?
Yes, so we now have case studies for staff involved in curriculum design and delivery, sharing how colleagues have used the tool for student and staff development. We got some great examples from different programs, from pharmacy, public health, mechanical, aerospace, and civil engineering, and use of the tool within the careers service team that they then followed up with targeted development support as well. And Jisc kindly gave us permission to extend the use of the Discovery tool to our Manchester Access programme, which is the university's central widening participation scheme for local Year 12 students in Greater Manchester. Working with colleagues who are leading the programme, we've added in annual digital capability workshops to the programme. There are up to around 600 participants, so it's a multiple sessions. We facilitate everyone having the opportunity within a computer cluster with support from the MAP student ambassadors to complete a question set of their choosing within the tool and get their personalised report. And this also complements other activities that are within the programme, such around participants getting support to create a CV, And as we know, supporting articulation of skills across the board for everybody is absolutely critical for employability. So because we've been doing this a few years now, initially we started out with just an opt-in kind of workshop where there were a handful of participants. Gosh, a lot of attention. I think we outnumbered them, but we had a good chat. And then it got put into the undeterred, got put into the main program. So we were able to look at last year's data within the tool with the team, and then they were able to make decisions about what they were going to do this year. So the program, when it runs during next semester, will include additional sessions and support around AI. And so it's really great to see that come full circle. And really close the loop on accessing the data and feeding it back in.
Excellent. And I absolutely love that example, that being able to kind of compare as well. It is so important. One of the developments we brought in this year off the back of the sector feedback, of course, was the ability for institutions to kind of see that year-on-year comparison as well. So I think, like you said, that personal growth, that ability to be able to compare as a user, but actually now as an institution as well, is really important because it helps that data-informed decisions. Is that this is where we need to maybe divert resources and maybe tailor it and look at particular different areas, etc. as well. So that's really lovely. It's a really lovely example of how that data is really sort of helping you as well more collectively. And I expect it will moving forward. So talking about moving forward, obviously, you've done loads of work already, lots of different stakeholders, lots of different examples of where this has been embedded. But what are the next steps in terms of using sort of the discovery tool at the University of Manchester?
As we spoke about, the work stream, the digital skills dedicated work stream, closed at the end of July this year. And a really critical part of that for me was the handover and landing the handover. Um, And with workstream colleagues, we started planning for that really early. And I've mentioned a few of the activities that we worked on throughout the workstream, and the handover included agreed business owners within business as usual across all of those, as well as enough information, keep contacts, etc., for things to continue as a reference. So for the discovery tool, during our annual meeting that we have, I invited key stakeholders, future business owners to that to get everybody in the room this year so that they would know what to expect next year. And the same thing with other resources as well. Um, and then we're already kind of seeing that ownership in action. So our library team remains the student face of our digital skills support, where it sits outside of what's embedded within programs. And they've consolidated the different online resources that they've created over the last few years into one kind of signposted digital skills support for students package. So students can get support to access a discovery tool alongside support to access LinkedIn Learning, alongside taking an industry recognized certification. And they'll just keep adding into that, so that becomes the go-to place. And our talent development colleagues have done the same to the support that staff can access as well. So they've set up a digital learning hub where staff can access the same support. And we're now seeing within our structures and with the job roles, responsibility for digital skills being added in, which is really great to see. We want that sustainable continuation of support there. We've spoken a bit about using the data, and again, I'd like to see us build on that to continue to support decision making. So for the discovery tool, where we're up to at the moment, nominated colleagues have access to the data across different areas of the university. So they are the go-to people for their colleagues to get the data and feed it back. What I would like to get to is that routine, timely feeding back of the data, both from the tool and from the digital experience insight surveys, to where it's useful in the organization. As we know, data is absolutely critical for digital transformation, and digital transformation will deliver the ambitions of our new strategy. So from equitable, flexible learning to the leaps we'll take around research impact, innovation, and our digital and physical environments, and the blend between the two. And as we know, these will be underpinned by a digital capability and the ability to provide support for students and staff that keeps pace with and enables us to leverage technology to achieve our goals.
Big plans. Lots and lots of exciting plans going forward there. There's a couple of things I absolutely loved, is that the resources part. You mentioned obviously that there's been sort of the creation of those resources, signposting to other areas as well. And of course, in the discovery tool, institutions and colleges can add in their own institutional resources. So it becomes much more of a kind of like a continuous CPD area for staff in there. And I absolutely love the way it's been kind of almost embedded into more of that kind of role recruitment. We're seeing a lot of that across the sector at the moment, where digital skills is really starting to form more into sort of job roles, the recruitment process as well. And of course, underpinning all of that is that data informed decision and strategies, which you've mentioned, which of course, when we're talking about things like digital transformation, data is important, as are people. And I think it's fantastic, the work that has been going at Manchester. And I can't wait to see how it moves forward. And I'm sure we'll continue to have lots of conversations with lots of different stakeholders. So I guess just one note, if we could finish on, if that's okay. If you were to give one piece of advice, or if there was another institution who was sort of at the start of the journey, and I think I might know what the answer might be based on some of the previous questions, but what would be almost like your one piece of advice in terms of where they could get started in terms of rolling out not just the discovery tool, but digital skills as a whole? What would be your first sort of piece of advice for them?
So I think internally, get the right people in the room. I think have the right conversations, and kind of externally speak to other organizations. So hi, come and have a chat, come and have a brew. But the community of practice is a good place to go to meet lots of different institutions who are trying to answer the same or similar questions to the ones that you will be having. So just the two.
Thank you. And that
Two
was
things to start
exactly
with.
that was exactly what I thought your answer would be there, Jane. And it's about getting the right people in the room. We see lots of institutions and colleges almost set up steering groups across the university or college, and that seems to work really, really well. And reach out. I mean, we've got our community. We have a thriving community within the Building Digital Capability Service here at Jisc, and it's just a lovely, open, friendly. Everyone, like you said, is having very similar challenges with limited resources and time, of course. So absolutely. Jane, it's been absolutely fantastic to talk to you today, and thank you so much for joining us on our Beyond the Technology podcast.
Thanks very much, Becky. It's been a pleasure.